again, and welcome to ManchTalk. I'm Tammy Simmons, and this is not Carla Garrick.
No, I am not.
This is Victoria Sullivan. She's sitting in for Carla while Carla's enjoying the beach in Honduras.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I will try to fill those shoes. It's kind of hard. She's a very intelligent woman.
Yes, she's a good egg.
That too.
Yes. So here we are, August, because, almost over with summer.
We were just commenting on we're pale.
I'm usually
anyway,
tan,
but
and I'm not tan. I haven't been kayaking once this year. It's my August plan, my August-September plan.
yeah.
I've had other things.
There's been no summer. It went from 100 degrees to rainy
pouring
and cold.
rain.
That's
Yep.
it.
And I wonder what we're going to end up with in September and October. Because now it's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning, it's 55 degrees. I'm like, what happened?
We'll have 100 degrees
it'll be
September.
100 in September or something. It'll be snowing in October, and then it'll be 40 in January.
But we love living in New England.
New Hampshire's a good state.
It keeps you guessing. Like, it'd be bored.
you on
I'd
your
be
toes.
bored if I lived someplace that was 7 degrees and sunny all the time, right? 70 degrees
Yeah,
and sunny
that would be
gets boring.
so boring. So, how are you?
I am well.
You're busy, I bet.
I'm really busy.
You're running for mayor.
I am. So for people that don't know, I am Victoria Sullivan, and I am running for mayor of the city of Manchester.
Yeah.
And we have been extraordinarily busy. I will tell you, so it's busy. I mean, you're busy.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a lot of work to campaigning. But
There's a lot more than people realize.
it's also, it takes an emotional toll because of what's going on in the city. Right?
This isn't just a city with no problems and you just want to be mayor.
No. If that were
That
the
would be
case,
easy.
I wouldn't even be running because
Right,
I'm not
'cause
that
you just-
person,
right?
right?
You just you mean your ego's not so big that you just have to do it because you have to be out there?
So there was this commercial once that I saw. It was a great campaign commercial, but there was it's an older couple, and he was in public service somehow. He's running for office, and the wife is going over to people saying please elect Norman, because if he's at home, he's just trying to fix everything. Give him something else to fix. And I feel like that's sort of how I'm wired too. If I see a problem, I need to figure out how to fix it. And that's how I got into public service in the beginning. It's probably how you got into it in the beginning. And it's really what drives me. So when I see people that are in need or that are hurting, I really feel like, I need to find the solutions. And I am not the brightest person in every room, but I think I'm good at seeking out the people that have the answers.
It's funny that you say that about yourself, that you're not the brightest person. I do in my brain sometimes try to make sure that I'm making decisions based on knowledge and facts, and I'm not just letting my emotions get the best of me. Okay, I'm friends with Victoria, so I want her to be mayor because she's my friend. Because I have other friends who are running for other offices. Well, I'm like, ooh, I'm your friend, but no. So I did stop and think, because Rich Gerard's running in this race. He's a Republican. So as a Republican activist person, I've got, in theory, two people to choose from. But there's a distinct difference between you and Rich, personality-wise, and your humbleness or whatever. You think of yourself as not the smartest person in the room. And you don't ever seem to say that you personally have all the answers, because from my perspective, there's a break in the fiber when you believe you alone have all the answers, because that means you're not really looking to work with the community, that you're not really thinking other people might have a better, I look at things and say, hey, you know what? I believe X, Y, and Z. And then Carla could say to me, but this, and this. And I think, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
And Carla's version might work in some instances, and yours works in something else.
And I'm okay I don't have to be right all the time.
Yep.
I would rather not have to be right all the time. But there is a distinct difference between you and Rich when it comes to that, because Rich, didn't come on the show today to bash Rich, but Rich has got a very, very large ego and a very big chip on his shoulder. And I don't know that is what the city needs to come up with new and creative ideas for 2021, 2022, where we do not live in the 90s or
Well, here's the other thing, too. You can't say you want to be part of the change when you've been part of the problem, right? So if he's touting that he's saying he's had 30 years experience and he knows where the bodies are buried. Well, if you know where the bodies are buried, you might have helped bury them. Right. You know what I mean? Or how do you look outside for change to do things differently?
And I'm going to transition to something which wasn't on our plan to talk, but I find that I hear from not just Rich, I hear it from people in general. When people talk about, well, so-and-so wasn't born here, makes me crazy. I wasn't born here. I chose New Hampshire. I chose Manchester. I chose it twice. This is where I chose to live. This is where you chose to live. I don't really give a patootie about where somebody went to kindergarten. It just doesn't matter to me.
And they try to make it seem like I flew in to run.
Like, oh my God, you just moved here.
What a lot of people don't know is that my parents lived here for a long time. They moved to Goffstown when they retired. They lived in Manchester for a long time, and I lived in Manchester, with them, when I was younger. Before I met my husband, before we chose to, purchase our own home here. And people they try to make it seem like I flew in here to run for office. I didn't run for office until my kids were older. I raised my kids here. I was a volunteer in the community. So all the things they try and throw at me, if you just talk to me a little bit, you'll know none of it is true. But when it comes down to, people thinking that they have all the answers, and I think this is a problem with our current mayor too, admitting that you are on the wrong path and that things didn't work out the way that you thought that they would is not a weakness.
No,
you
it's
have
a
to say
this is what this is. Wait, we thought safe stations. I don't know if you voted for very well intentioned. I thought safe stations was going to be I was like, that makes so much sense, so that you can get help to people.
But we didn't have the resources to serve all of the people, and then when and
then now it's a problem. So
then there was all y'all come here to Manchester because we can help you, and it was actually setting people up for failure because we couldn't provide the services we were promising.
So I'm okay with saying, that was a great idea, but we didn't think it through well enough. You know what I mean? And that's okay. And now we have to fix that and try something else. And I get very frustrated because I hear it from not a lot of people, but I read it and comments, and I just don't think people are living in today's world sometimes. Here is a reality to the people who live in Manchester, New Hampshire. French Canadian Catholics are not fleeing to Manchester to settle. There's nothing wrong with French Canadian Catholics.
Nothing at all.
A large portion of Manchester are French Canadian Catholics, and that's okay. They were all from the mills and everything. But today,
and they do a wonderful job with the West Side.
There's nothing wrong. But I'm just saying, you can't live in 2021 and think that we have to do everything in the city based on what we needed in the 80s or the 90s. Right?
Yeah.
We have
a very different demographic
and we have a ton of refugees that settled in our community. We have Bosnians and, all these ethnicities that didn't live here in the 80s and the 90s, and they've brought so much culture and good things to our community.
We have people from the People's Republic of Congo. We've got such a variety of people that are here now.
It makes me crazy when I hear, almost this mentality of, well, not those people. Those people are our community. And if you don't understand that, you definitely should not be running for office.
No, and if you haven't, gone on the West Side and talked to some of the folks that are over there that have really invested in the West Side, I mean, they take so much pride in what's happening over there, they love the rest of the city.
Speaking of West Manchester, another sidetrack, there is an organization, We Heart West, and they are part of. Hold on, I'm going to find it. There's the We Heart West Community Action Group or whatever, and they are planning the very first West Manchester Day, and I believe it's going to be at Rock Rimmon Park. It is on Saturday, September 4th. So that's Labor Day weekend.
And that organization is largely made up of new residents of the city.
Those are people that are not French Canadian Catholics that settled here prior to 1990. They are young people that live in the West Side who want to make the community over there more vibrant, and they want to clean up their neighborhoods, and they're organizing, and it's very similar to what happened in the North End.
And I will tell you, the elderly people that live on that side love that they're passing the torch to another generation of people.
If you're 70 years old and you are the French Canadian Catholic that's lived here all your life,
you want somebody that's going to take pride in your side of the street. But you want someone else that's going to take pride in your city.
I'm in the process of selling the house that I lived in for 20 years, right? That you get bond with your house.
You do.
And I'm struggling in my head between the real estate market and the money and what I want for the next owner, because I really hope that somebody buys it that is
Gonna love it.
gonna sit there, live in it for 20 years
Yep.
and love their home, that home, as much as I loved that home. So there's like, I want my neighborhood that won't be my neighborhood anymore to be better.
Right.
It won't even be my neighborhood. It'll always be part of my neighborhood, because
And that's how we should all feel about the whole city. We want to hand it down to the next generation to be better than it was before, and we're not accomplishing that at this time.
I wanted to talk about something that I wasn't going to really delve into it too much, but then I saw a post from somebody other than you with a picture, so I thought, okay, now it's fair game. So after I did the show last week, I think it was last week, I take it back. It was after you and I spent some time at City Hall researching the
right to know request on the survey.
over the American Rescue Plan survey, which is what I really wanted to talk about today. So maybe we'll have to do another show. I left and I drove over to see where the big controversial sober house up in the North End was, because I hadn't been by. And I drove by and I was quite surprised.
Yep.
Out of the cluster of, say, 6 homes, it was probably the nicest.
It's a beautiful home.
I was like, wait, I'm confused. So why would anybody be confused? So I took some pictures. I took pictures of 4 or 5 different homes in that block, and I made a collage, and I posted it on Facebook and said, which of these houses should neighbors be concerned about? And nobody could figure out what the heck I was talking about, because they're like, I don't understand. That one's got a little hole in the roof. You know, I don't know why. What's going? And I thought, okay, so nobody. There's nothing.
I love
about
the comment
this.
that was, "Why should I be concerned about anybody else's house?"
Exactly. People were saying, and it was across the political spectrum.
Yes, it was.
Because Barbara Shaw also commented that they're your neighbors, we should care about all of them. And I was like, ooh, not care in that way. I had to change it to concern.
Yeah.
And the people, now granted, this is my realm of the world, saying, yeah, I shouldn't care because I should care about them as my neighbors, but it's none of my business,
right,
because
exactly.
that's their house and not mine. And then I did eventually mention that one of these homes was a sober home that housed 11 women who are in recovery. And I know that on Sunday you had dinner with these lovely ladies.
Did.
And they were the ones who posted the picture of you with them.
Yes.
So that's why I felt it was okay to do this.
Yep.
I thought
They took the picture. I didn't.
Right.
They initiated all of that.
Right.
I honestly. So I had met with the homeowner, and he said he wanted to meet somewhere else, and I asked if I could meet there. And then I asked if it would be okay if I came back and I spoke with the women, because I think their story is really important.
Well, and it's good to know. It's too easy to make a decision about what's going on in that home unless you've talked to the people in that home. Because what if they weren't doing well,
Sure.
right?
Yep, absolutely. So their experiences were important, and I was, I thought I'd come and just meet, but they made me dinner. Like, it was just really nice. Like, they really made me dinner. Like, they made chicken pot pie, and I was felt a little guilty. I told them, because I served my family Mrs. Bud's, and they actually made homemade chicken pot pie and peach cobbler. I mean, so every Sunday they have to break bread together. They have to cook and have a meal together and discuss things, and they sort of have in-house, how was your week? And beyond that, they all have to work. They all have to go to therapy. They all have to do, maintain their sobriety. They are drug tested. They are
breathalyzer. I knew what you were doing.
And they are, and a lot of them had told me that they had tried sober homes in the past, but because they're often in really bad neighborhoods, like one person said, my drug dealer was across the street. How do you stay sober with that kind of temptation? And by putting them in nice neighborhoods, they feel like they're a part of a community and they're lifted up out of their circumstances and they're living in a different way. And it was so empowering for them. And I was just humbled by the fact that they were so candid with me and shared their stories so honestly. But this is saving their lives. And it really is saving their lives.
The day that I was there was a woman who I believe lives across the street from them, who was putting stuff in her car, and she was watching me because, I'm walking up and down the street taking pictures, so she was like, who the heck is it? And I said, I gotta ask you, do you live here? And she said, yeah, I live here. And I said, what do you think about that house? She goes, it's a nice house. But I mean, it's funny because she kind of had
Yeah.
the same mentality. Like, it's a nice house. I said, but are you concerned about who's living there? And she said, no, it's actually none of my business who's living there.
Yeah.
And I thought,
and
okay.
some of the neighbors that I've seen, because they were interviewed in the paper, like the woman that lives behind them, has been very supportive of the sober homes. And they did have one overdose there when they first opened, and people relapse. People are human, and they relapse.
But
and then
there
they
are overdoses in every neighborhood in the city.
And that's what I said to them. I said, I've got overdoses in my neighborhood. I know people that, live in very residential neighborhoods
Right.
that have overdoses there. It's just everywhere. And if we don't provide the services to help people get on the right path,
Yep.
then it's going to continue to happen.
Well, because people always have this misconception, and this is where I learned a lot of stuff when I was in the legislature. You learn things that you don't expect to learn. I remember sitting on the labor committee once, and that we were discussing, I think, pain management for workers' compensation. So it was like not related, but related. Mm-hmm. And this doctor got up and very candidly explained to us how he believed many people became addicted, and how people don't realize that. People say, oh, there's people who are addicted, and they think that these are just people out there looking to have a good time, and they're taking reckless drugs, and then they become addicted. When in reality, a lot of people become addicted to opioids in particular because they had an injury, and they were prescribed, and then they were prescribed again, and then they become addicted. And then, you can fix that if you want.
I lost
they become addicted, and then their insurance cuts them off, or their doctor cuts them off, and then they're already addicted. And you can't become unaddicted just because you decide, like you're addicted. That's part of the problem. And I can't wrap my head around addiction.
At the State House, it was, I think, a neurologist came in. Oh,
what's up with that?
Because I think we talked.
I think I'm moving too much. Okay, fine.
We're trying to Facebook Live at the same time, so that's what I'm fixing. But I think we're like very animated.
The neurologist.
The neurologist said that it takes 2 years to rewire your brain from opioids.
Right. So, when we say, oh, we should do something about these people and put them in jail for 30 days or put them in rehab, what I see is
surprising to me that a lot of them had been in jail for drugs.
Yep.
They are now considered felons. They can't,
so they're stuck.
When they
That's
returned
hard.
to the streets, they couldn't even have mace to protect themselves. Like a lot of the women that are on the streets, and I'm not going to say particularly these women, but a lot of women that are on the streets are sexually assaulted. There's so many bad things that happen to the women out there, and that perpetuates the PTSD, that perpetuates the self-medication.
Yep.
And when I was leaving, I mean, these women were so wonderful. And when I was leaving, I asked them, I said, how much of your story do you want me to share? Because I felt like it was all... They were so vulnerable with me, right? And it was all in confidence, and I didn't want to say anything that they didn't want me to say, but I also felt like their story was important. And they said, it's all out there. You can share anything you want to. So that night I went home, I just sort of... someone called it a reflection, which I thought was kind of cool because it was. And I just did like a Facebook Live talking about my experience. Had I known it was we shared so many times and so many views, I would have probably dressed a little differently. Because it was like the end of the day, and I'm in like a t-shirt, and like I'm like in a loose baggy t-shirt. My hair's in a ponytail.
That's because you're a real person. You're the real deal. Like, you wear t-shirts and a ponytail. You're not just all like, hey, look at me, I'm a politician.
It was 9:00 on a Sunday night. My week was done, and I was just hanging out in my house. So that made me laugh a little bit. But no, they wanted me to share their story, and I got a message from someone this morning who is not in recovery but works for a recovery center that was like, thank you so much for supporting this and putting it out there. People don't understand how important it is. And I just think it's like, when we look at Liberty House, who I think does this work really, really well, and we're patting them on the back and giving kudos, and then we've got the same kind of thing with civilians, but we think like this is somehow not okay. This is not right,
well,
right?
And I do think there is a lot of NIMBYism, like you said it on Sunday night, and I was like, that's completely true. We can all talk about, well, we need to get these people off the street, and we need to, they need to recover, and well, these 11 women are doing whatever they can to recover, to become, to break the chains of addiction.
When people say, they need to take responsibility, they are. These people are taking.
I look at it on. I look at it completely seriously and say, we have 11 women. You can do it. 11 women who. I'm going to stop moving because I think it's me. 11 women who are living a sober, clean life, trying to get their lives back on track for whatever reasons they were off track is irrelevant at this point. They are living in a home that is clean and safe and is not disruptive to the neighborhood. And
I was just watching it
There are
slide
some,
down the thing, so we'll just have it
including
there.
candidate Rich Girard, who instead of wanting to say, why is the city making it harder for people to live in
Right.
in homes like this? Because this home is large.
Yep.
There are 11 people living in there. We don't have a problem if it's 11 other people, as long as they're siblings living
Yes.
together in a smaller home.
And here's the other thing, and I'm going to hold my phone now because we have 10 minutes left. Right? So now we look weird.
Yeah, we do.
Can we put it
Okay,
over
you're
there?
going to talk, and I'm going to
do
try
that.
to futz
okay.
this.
So I kept sliding off the thing I had it on. So part of the thing is they consider this to be a business run in a residential home, right?
business.
So it's, I mean, these women are not crowded in here. It's a very, very large home. And one could make the same argument for a condex that's in the neighborhood that is owned by somebody but rented out to somebody else. I mean, couldn't you make that same argument?
Well,
if
it
it's owned by
is.
somebody but rented out by somebody else, that is a business and someone is making a profit.
But
Right?
what about somebody? What if I own a 3-family home
Right.
and I live in one of the units?
Yeah.
And I rent out the bedrooms in my units to roommates.
Well, what they're
Why is
saying in
that
this
different?
neighborhood is that it's strictly residential and you can't have anything like that. But it's not, because there's, I mean, if a condex a single family,
I just don't understand why
right? But
I understand.
So a block away is Liberty House.
Right.
A block away.
I don't get it.
On the same
I'm
street.
sorry. I just don't get it. I understand. Trust me. I don't want a business to go like a paving company to move to buy the house next
Mm-hmm.
to me and put their business there because I live in a residential neighborhood. But this is a residential house, and these people are just living there.
Yeah.
There's no commercial kitchen.
No.
There's no. It's just 11 women living in a home together. In recovery.
Yeah, and it's not congregate housing because there isn't somebody, like, there's not
There's
a
no-
service in there that provides their, like, they make their own
They
meals.
live there.
They live there.
They feed
Yeah.
themselves. They clean their
And
house.
I know, some people balked because they went and they wanted to change the definition of family to accommodate this. And sitting there with those women and listening to
They
how
are
they
a
support
family.
each other, they are a more functional family than some of the other families that I know.
And why are we spending so much time as the government defining what a family is? That
and here's
can't
a
be
private-
the solution to make it more. I mean,
Right.
I saw the ordinance, the proposed change to the ordinance. We're narrowing the definition of a family, and I use the word family a lot because who I define as my family is almost entirely not genetically
We're
connected
defining
to me.
it on the state level just as because we're doing a lot of family voice and family engagement, and we wanted to define what family engagement was and make it like it's an action and not
Yeah.
just someone sitting at the table. And so then what is a family? And we've been working on that, and it's a very broad definition of what a family is. But here, like, I just don't understand it. We've got a private business doing really successful work.
And we have 11 women
11
who I
who
really
will-
honestly challenge Rich Girard or anybody who want to see these women driven out of this home.
And have
to
11
tell
more
me
homeless people on the
where
street.
these 11
Yeah.
women struggling to become sober continually
Yeah.
are supposed to go.
And-
where are they supposed to go
And their
live?
plan is a few of them have been sober for a year now, and now they're beginning to look towards transitioning out of there
Right.
to other housing outside of there. And, where else, so that other people can come in, they so there's room for more
right,
people.
you're not
new
there for
people.
life.
Right. And so I think part of the problem is, and I had a couple of legislators that actually saw my video that reached out to me because there isn't anything,
We don't make
the
a good
mayor
bridge.
has stated that this is the state's fault because that's her MO, right? And that there isn't any definition in law. So I have had legislators reach out to me that want to make a definition in law. And I'm not big into regulations, but if we could use this as a model and develop the regulations of the law around that, I think it would be helpful to people that are coming into this, because my understanding, not just this homeowner, but other sober home owners that I've spoken with, say, like, because it's not codified in law, when they tick all the boxes the city wants them to tick, all of a sudden a different department comes in and says, no, not so fast. Now we want you to do this,
is a
right?
problem in government.
So they're spending a ton of money to try to do this, and if it's not worth it to them as a company, they won't do it. So then what happens? Then we've got more homeless people, or the government trying to take on this work that they are terrible at. The government is terrible at this kind of work. And
so and it makes me ask, like, so is the problem that this house is on Orange Street, or is the problem that this house exists at all? Because I'm going to guess, and I'm going to venture to guess, that if this was down on Auburn Street,
right,
Rich Gerard wouldn't be as outraged.
Well, no, I was told by one of the owners that he actually was outraged because they wanted to put one on the west side too. So it wasn't just his backyard. He apparently doesn't want any of them. But here's also the thing. With him kicking up such a fuss and making a problem about it, it's giving it's putting a bad taste in the mouth of all the residents that see them coming into the neighborhood, right? And
because they're being told that there's a problem, where the neighbors I spoke to didn't seem to think there was a problem at all.
And he said it was like the Wild West. Come on, come live on my side of the city on South Beach Street, where anything can happen at any time on that main road. I mean, like, seriously, it was a quiet neighborhood. I even commented on that, like, because I live on a main road, right? Yep. So it's so quiet there. And, I saw in the paper, like I said, the neighbor in the back said they never had a problem. She's invited them over, but they're so busy working and doing the things they need to do, they don't have the time. And I just, if we do not, you cannot say you want to find solutions for the problem and then turn your nose up at the solutions. Because not in my neighborhood.
You can't just wish away homelessness, addiction, any of those things. We have to find a way.
It's the same thing as just constantly demolishing these homeless camps so that people move deeper and deeper into the woods, right? So we're not getting rid of it.
Right. We're not saying we're moving people from tents to housing. We're moving people from tents to tents.
Yeah.
That's not the solution. I don't want to see people camped out on property that's not their own either. But the solution isn't just more shelter beds. But we both know that because there's problems with the shelters.
Yeah. Plus, that's not a transition out of homelessness.
No, that's just a day's.
Yeah, they need a
place to sleep. That's not the same.
And they're out in the streets all day long, right?
And if we can get the people that truly want to not live in a tent somewhere in the woods into some sort of housing, then we at least can get down to the people that are left are probably the ones that we have to have a different approach to.
Well, let's end this on a hopeful note. So we've got more money in the state budget for housing assistance. We've got more money in the state budget for mental health assistance. Good. We've got more money in the state budget for opioid addiction. And with people like the owner of this home and the other sober homes out there that are doing the good work, trying to lift people up. This isn't a handout. This is a hand up to get back to someplace else. There is hope for these people, and that gives hope for the city, even if it's 11 people at a time, right?
Well, 11 people is 11 people. You do that 10 times, that's probably half of our homeless population, the repeat homeless population. Yeah. Okay, so we got a 1-minute warning now. I am curious. We had originally planned to talk about this American Rescue Plan, $43 million that the city is spending in unusual ways, because there was a survey out there, and I'm curious if anybody watching this actually knew about the survey before the results of the survey came out. If you could email me at manchtalk@gmail.com, I'd love to hear that, because I am guessing that nobody knew about the survey until the survey results came out.
Or you can just comment underneath the Facebook Live.
You can do that too, because she does things.
Because 159 people responded, 6% of those were not city residents, and the thing that we found in the right to know request was that there was no email communication about any of it.
Go figure. Maybe next week we'll talk about that. Yeah. Anyways, that's all we got. You guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.